Hey, hey, hey! Welcome to another episode of A Cup of Tea with Auntie Winnie or Winnie the Music Educator. I'm so happy to see you today and to be able to have another conversation with you. And hopefully, we'll stay tuned till the end and you'll be able to also share this content with other people who are interested. As usual, I love my cup of tea when I'm doing this. It's full of nourishment with lots of herbs in it. And I should do another episode where maybe I should teach you how to make good tea that will do wonders to your body and to your day. And so today, I'm here with a bit of a serious issue that has been going on in Kenya. And my question is at the moment, what's happening in Kenyan boarding schools? It's really one of those things that is has really hit us as a country, as a nation, with a lot of shockwaves because it's not the first time that there's a lot of unrest happening in boarding schools, but it's just increasingly getting worse and more intense. And every day we are hearing cases of where students, high school students, so to speak, in boarding schools, burning schools, or just creating some unrest situations that are really, really affecting, costing lives. This is where now it becomes now very serious because we are losing lives so frequently through boarding schools and rest. And even as I'm a parent, myself, I'm a teacher, and there are other people, the students themselves, what's going on. My question here is what's going on. There are many people talking about this right now. There's been a recent incident which has cost, I think now probably the death toll is rising to 19 girls in a boarding school, where investigations are still going on, but it's said, right now, what is in the news is that they were touched by their fellow colleagues while they were sleeping. I mean, this is not something that it's not actually funny because even one life lost is too many lives lost. So we cannot justify loss of lives because of any reason at all. And especially when it's dealing with our children whom we've taken to school to have an education that will help them do better for themselves as adults in this world, including being able to serve communities at large and be responsible people. What's happening? Parents, what's happening? Teachers, what's happening? Students, what's happening? What's happening? Because the fabric of our society right now is grounded in good morals, social values, and of course a good education that can create that social standing in society. And obviously, we cannot say that we are having children whom we'll keep at home and not take them to schools to have a good education. And boarding schools has been one of the options for many reasons. I mean, everyone is trying at the moment. There's a lot of demonizing of boarding schools, but myself, I got an education in a boarding school in high school. I finished where I did primary school until now the age when I needed to go into high school. I went to a boarding school, and I will be honest. Well, that was some time ago. In the 80s and early 90s, I guess things have changed because I did personally enjoy most of my life in boarding school. And I thought today I want to share what I went through in boarding school, my 4 years in boarding school, what they looked like. And then also now bring it now to this generation of students going boarding schools now, our own children, where obviously don't look the same way. Because for me, as an experience, I remember being very excited to go to boarding school because, first of all, it was like it felt like traveling to another country. All my life, I'd been at home with my parents and my siblings. And for me, in my mind, what I visualized and in my dreams as a young person is that if I go to boarding school, I'll be in another world. I will make friendships. I will be in a new community. That was exciting to me as a young person. And I don't remember even having a conversation with my parents at any given point. Okay, to be honest, to prepare me for boarding school. First of all, maybe that it might be an ask for now. that our parents are supposed to be involved even to prepare their students to be in boarding schools. Is that something that we need to consider to prepare our children for the life of boarding schools? Are our children now more sensitive than we were? Because in my times, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I'd like to hear about people now who are my age, for example, share also their input on this. I didn't I didn't see like I missed anything by the fact that my parents did not talk to me about boarding school before they took me there. For me, it was just going to be an adventure. That was all that was in my mind. An adventure, another new space. I never thought that I would be unsafe in a boarding school. And I was when the first time I went to boarding school, I was so excited with my luggage in hand and getting registered and seeing new faces of other girls. I was in a girls' boarding school and I was excited. And there's nothing in my mind that told me that it was going to ever, came to my mind that it was going to be a dangerous place. And honestly, it was not a dangerous place. Though I do remember when I was in Form 3, we did have a strike. Actually, it's my year group that did that strike at that time, in the early 90s. That was the first strike in that school. Maybe that's where it started from. But it was not a strike that involved injuring of lives of other colleagues. When the strike came, it was, and I guess these are some of the points that we need to talk about now. Maybe now it's on a bigger scale where you have young people in boarding schools, and at some point, because this is a whole community that it involves some parents, those ones in PTAs, uh, the teachers, and us as the students, and other people who work in the school, the matron. We had all this. There are many people in that community that make the community work. The headmistress or the principal, so many people, the other workers who are doing other things in the school, the nurse, and so um, obviously in a community like that we need to also factor in that sometimes there might be grievances that need to be addressed in with by either party. And now when it comes to the students, I remember during my time, because that brought my own situation at that moment when we in my third form, that time that we used to say form 1, form 2, form 3, form 4. And so that was the year before the last to leave now to university. And there was an unrest and unrest in the school. And I think part of the students in my year group were grieving about, okay, we in those days the prefects of the school had a lot of authority. They're almost actually second to the teachers, and they really did have a lot of authority. And so there was a feeling that the prefects at that time were getting too many privileges at the cost of the rest of the girls in the school. And then also maybe just that whole feeling of some privileges also removed from the students themselves. I remember when I went into Form 1, we were visited by our parents, our parents and siblings every week, every weekend. We had visiting. Those were days that we enjoyed. We had visiting day, and I think that's part of the reason why our lives in boarding school were also quite peaceful, because we were visited. So it didn't feel like we missed home too much, because we knew in the weekend we'd have visiting. But I think at some point that was scrapped, or it was reduced to maybe once a month or something like that. And some students did not enjoy that at all, because they enjoyed having those visitings, because number one, it meant that day you're not going to eat school food. Yeah, school food, how it is. It was not bad. We didn't. I was in a school, thank God, that provided decent food, and sometimes we even had, the high and mighty coming to visit, and we would have special dishes on that day. So it was fun. And then also when we were visited, people now had the opportunity to share their foods from different families. It was a fun time, and I think one of the reasons why we were happy in boarding school at that time, because of those visitations. We were visited by our parents and siblings, and so we had a lot to share. We enjoyed that weekend, and the week went smoothly until the next visiting. So and then now, so that unrest was caused, and I remember some girls left school, so it was a whole saga. But it was not, at the end of the day, it was resolved. So obviously that was a beginning, maybe to show that in a community like that, I think we need to have situations where, for example, now with students, because the students are the most important part in that community. Without the students, then there's no reason for boarding schools. Is Do we have, my question at this point is that, now remembering my own, that incident during my own time in boarding, do we need to have frequent sittings or meetings with the whole school, of the students body and the authorities in the school, just to discuss how everyone feels in that community, are there grievances, and everybody to be given an opportunity to talk. And even I remember, I don't know if that this is happening in body schools now. We used to have, yes, I remember, we used to have suggestion boxes. So in the suggestion boxes, we would, I guess they were supposed to be, you would suggest something anonymously, and I'm not sure how many people use them. I never actually used the suggestion boxes, but I remember seeing them in certain points in the school. And now it's just come to me that probably that was a good opportunity for students to also be able to air their concerns or grievances, if any, for now the school authority to go through them anonymously and try and work through these suggestions. I'm just supposing that's what happened. I don't know if really that happened, but hopefully that was the purpose of the suggestion boxes. So, do we have suggestion boxes? That's my question for those who are listening, or who would be interested in discussing this topic further and giving their own opinion. Do we have suggestion boxes anymore that students can be able to put in suggestions so that they're checked, periodically by the authorities who really check them and see what's going on in the school? Because it's almost like there's a silence. My concern here, there's sort of like a silence cloud on this issue of boarding schools. And when students go to boarding schools, it's like you're sending them off to jail to some extent. Or is okay, are parents getting rid of their children by using boarding schools as an excuse? I know there's some genuine reasons why boarding schools are important. For one, in my own observation and experience, I think boarding schools are designed to grow children, and especially in that age group. I'm talking about probably 13 into 18 before they transition into adulthood and come into the space of going to university. It's a good preparation space where children are taught how to be independent. You go to a boarding school and you have to live by a certain set of rules and duties that you must do. I think that's great for children to grow with that, because sometimes in the home space, maybe there's not much time. There are some home spaces that are also not very conducive for learners. So those ones who propose that boarding schools are good, those are some of the things they say. Our children need to grow. Our children need to get their own wings, and sometimes a bit away from the parents and being with their peers is a good, also forming good networks, community around your own peers that you can use and leverage on when you're an adult. We are doing that. I'm in an alumni group of my classmates in high school, and now we are great people in the society by and large. We are able to pull our resources together. We are able to now even help other kids, other students, other young people to go through school who cannot afford, because we have alumni groups. So I think there's a big role of boarding schools in the education system. But my thinking is that one of the things that I've seen that has deteriorated greatly is spiritual nourishment. Again, I'd like to hear people talking about this, and how is that being utilized in schools now? Because I think we cannot just grow the physical man. Every religion has got their spiritual nourishment structure, and the big role of spiritual nourishment is to help a young person to know who they are from within, and make and strive to be a better human being, not just for yourself but for others as well. And that is why we have churches. In my school at that time, we had space for people of different religions to go. If those ones who are going to the temple, we had Sunday service for the Christians, and the Muslims also had theirs. When we had some of these celebrations for the spiritual celebrations, those people who were involved in those spiritual celebrations would go to attend to that, so that they are spiritually nourished. And when they come back in the bigger community, they respect others as well. So is that going on, or I'm thinking there's a lack of spiritual nourishment, and spiritual nourishment does not also just start from school. It needs to start home. Parents, how are you bringing up your children to be spiritually nourished? When I was a young person growing through school, Our parents, I came from a Christian, I'm a Christian from a Christian family. And our parents made sure, as siblings, every Sunday we had to go to church without fail. It was not something that was discussed, it was not given an option. We just all, so long as we lived in that home, we had to go to church. Until now, we left now to become our own adults and do whatever choices we have. But I feel that already grounded us, because now we were taught how to live with other people. We were taught to be good people, people who love others genuinely, and the respect of a higher authority, the respect in God put a fear in us that you could not harm another person. I would never, for the life of me, even think another student can harm another. Like it's yes, there was bullying. Now that's another thing. There's that. There are cases of bullying also in boarding schools, because they're obviously those students who feel they're high and mighty, or they have the authority of others over other students. I also faced a bit of bullying and we used to use a name when you're a form one. We were called rebels. So rebels just meant that the older people in the school, from two and above, sometimes would misuse from ones to do their duties. That was the type of bullying that we got. I don't remember going through bullying of body shaming. Those days we didn't have that. It was just run an errand for an older girl and stuff like that. We didn't really like it, but I don't think it was extreme. At least in my case, I don't remember it being extreme. But again, also, I don't condone bullying. Why should you bully another person's child? So these issues need to be addressed. Some of them are similar, but now they have escalated to a level where we students, young people, peers killing each other. Honestly, for what reason? What are those grievances? I need to know. There are rumors, of some of this. And that when I bring spiritual nourishment, I'm also talking about lifestyle choices, where our kids are exposed to some of these lifestyle choices too early. Things to do with sexualism, for example. I feel there's a problem there. If it's true, some of these incidences are caused by students who are trying to sexually harass others who are not believing in that type of sexuality. For example, if it's an all girls school or an all boys school, there are many. We have, all these things are on social media. I'm extracting what people are saying there. Some teachers claiming, the issues of lesbianism, or just the LGBTQ, which is a thing now. Well, I don't have much to say about that in terms of choice, but at least at the end of the day, that should not be a reason for students to be hurting other students because of their sexual orientation. First of all, what is that? How is that happening in school as a main thing? The students are supposed to be, the main focus is their education. These other things aside. And then again, yes, back to the question of how are we addressing as authorities, school authorities, including parents, to address these agendas, these issues as they come across. If the students have also a way to express their concerns, as I said, using suggestion boxes or any other way, where do we go from here? Because this cannot continue. First of all, it just shows great moral and social value deterioration in the community, because you parent whose child has caused harm, if it has been proven beyond reasonable double doubt, kill another student, how are you going to deal with that? What was your role in that? Could we question ourselves? Could we do things better, or is it time now to put our foot down as bigger, older people in the society, to say we need to change something, even in terms of how we are bringing up our children? And then we have the poor parents who've lost their children over the years through these fires that have been happening. May God continue to rest the souls of the departed ones in peace, and also comfort and bring peace to the families of those ones who have lost their children. It is horrible. It's horrific. I'm a parent. I cannot imagine my two children dying in a school incident of the same, where they're burnt without, like, it's horrible. Who has the right to take another person's life? Nobody has. So obviously, also the question of what do we do with these students who have harmed others? What are we doing about these students? What is going to happen to them? How, if at all, they'll be forgiven? What structures will be built in place to make sure they don't do that to others again? Even the trauma for the children who survived with their lives. How are we going to deal with this? So this is a huge topic. Many people are talking about it. Others, just like me, say they had good experiences in boarding schools because of some of the reasons I've given. I'm interested in knowing what are some of the reasons that we should adapt, especially in this century, for young people to make, if we at all we agree that boarding schools have a role to play in growing decent human beings. What can we change? What do we need to do to improve? What talking points should we come with so that we can agree as a society to avoid future horrific incidences like the one that has just happened in my country, Kenya, where so many children have lost their lives. Others they're all traumatized, even those ones who are alive. Some of them are still in hospital with horrible burns. Who knows how the toll is going to continue in this space? So let us continue this conversation. I'll be so happy to hear your feedback, and so that we can continue educating one another for the sake of building stronger communities. That has been a cup of tea with Auntie Winnie, aka Winnie, the music educator. And I wish you well. Let us strive to make stronger communities. Thank you.